Hello everyone, we're back here with a new video. Of course, the August 17th rendition of Monday Night Raw. That ended with, of course, a predictable assault. We all knew that Shawn Michaels was coming out to take another spot to make Randy Orton seem menacing, even though he's done way worse. I don't know why in the world they try to build this up as making Randy Orton more despicable by the week. This was the weakest go-home show, and to think WWE wouldn't learn from most of the mistakes to pay-per-view overload, even though they are going to miss out on live events, miss out on live attendance, the stuff that they want to do. They are still gonna push you after seeing the biggest pay-per-view of the one of the bigger pay-per-views of the year, and then the next week you got to use the network again to watch Payback now, just to get some finishes off the story. I guess they finally let Sasha Banks lose the title. But if you wanted to, just make them pull double duty. I don't know why that's so difficult. I understand they're trying to make the pay-per-view shorter and less risk of COVID. I get that. It's just really bad, bro. Also, we had Mickie James losing to Natalya after Mickie James just returned last week. If she picked up a win against Lana and Natalya picks up a win against her, I could understand basic 50-50 booking for an irrelevant coexistence of Natalya and Lana that just came up because both their lives suck at the moment. It's just so bad, man. I mean, I try. I mean, the only captivating part of the show was literally just, I guess, the feud with Apollo Crews, because he's legitimately getting promo time and actually seems like a decent babyface, except with the same moveset he's had for about 5 years now. And of course, we have Drew McIntyre against Randy Orton. The Retribution stuff can just break apart, because they just come around with Drew McIntyre of course, recapping the end of last week's Raw. They ended up with Ric Flair getting low blowed out of nowhere by Randy Orton after a heartfelt promo, and he immediately got punt kicked, but they turned off the lights. But Shawn Michaels came around and took it because he can still take bumps. It's just rough. Then they had the technical difficulties. Then they did the same formatted responses to the Retribution. It's not, let's find the guys and kick their ass. Let's get selective groups. Or we can find, like Shane McMahon, that's literally the son of the owner of the company, to authoritate security or something. Hire some guys from Raw Underground to take out Retribution and ban them from the property. Something like that to show a compelling storyline that these guys are threats. I'm not seeing that. I'm just seeing them being children and messing around with camera work around the freaking performance center. Someone please explain this to me. Am I ecstatic about Thunderdome as well? I don't know. We'll see until then. I'm not going to just bring up my hype, because every time I have high expectations, WWE's quality goes down the toilet. It was ridiculous, man. I'm just saying. And it just, what was the build-up over to SummerSlam, other than the Randy Orton match against Drew McIntyre, the Fiend versus Bray Wyatt, the hair versus hair match? I don't care about Bayley and Sasha Banks probably losing their belts. I don't care. They've been least compelling, and they've been rating killers, trying to think all because they get main events on Raw means they're changing women's wrestling. No, you're lessening the product, and you're lessening the popularity. You're lessening the ratings. You got to chill out with that. We need something more compelling, and people have been so ecstatic over the Retribution faction when they don't do anything. They came around over to the cameras, to the camera room, freaking just breaking turned off laptops in half. They're not showing any other carnage. All they're doing is messing around with the editing and stuff over the live broadcast. And oh my god, things like they're completely out of control. And as soon as they cut off from that, it felt like just a regular episode of Raw. It's not like they made selective groups to jump the world champion, jump at least some certain jobbers on the Raw roster, or at least jump the referees like they did last week on SmackDown. They are more effective on SmackDown than they are on Raw for some apparent reason. Even though we don't have any like mega super heavyweights or that many major threats on Raw. Like the most major threat is Bobby Lashley, but he's a heel. Like just completely a waste of my time. We had an opening match was Shelton Benjamin against Apollo Crews, and whoever won, the Hurt Business is not in MVP's corner. But after it ended off a surprise roll up after some inziguris, pay dirt didn't go well, and then just R-Truth and the Ninjas and Akira Tozawa came out of nowhere. It ended off as a surprise roll up pin for Apollo. Then later on, after a post match assault, we had Ali that somehow associates with Ricochet and Cedric, and Apollo because babyface midgets got to stick together. They ended up coming out, helping out against the Hurt Business, and it ended up being a 6-man elimination tag called by MVP later in the match. We really need authorities or figures or something. It's so dumb. I hate that type of style of WWE. It doesn't make it more efficient. It doesn't make it condensed storytelling. It's just making that impromptu to just do a match. Like, you can't do impromptu to sell a match. You're supposed to sell these wrestlers. I don't care that you do Apollo versus MVP. MVP always listens to Apollo anyway, and Apollo just finds some certain way to get written off of TV for forceful sympathy for this guy just isn't given a chance. I don't care about this guy that looks like every dark-skinned cheating husband in a Tyler Perry film. I don't care about Apollo Crews. Oh, God, and they're trying so hard for this dumb build for this midget faction that breaks property that's replaceable and doesn't really affect most of the show. They mess with the camera work. They're not even showing cryptic signs. They're not showing any other important wrestlers. They're not even affecting the main event. Why make a major faction and they're not affecting the main event? I don't understand that. Aces and Eights, as much as it was a cluster F for some parts of Impact, they were a major storyline and a major talking point of the show. So was Nexus, so sometimes even the freaking core from back then. Just something. Even the invasion, that was a freaking joke for WCW and ECW. At least they showed that they were a major talking point of the show. They had a great opening, just later on sucked. These guys just opening of the show sucked. Why are they that featured if they're not doing anything that important? Oh, they're messing around with camera. What kind of distinct likability or effect did they have in the show? Oh, he came with a chainsaw to rip the ropes apart on SmackDown, the B show. No one shows their faction to be effective on a freaking B show. Sorry, bro. I'm sorry to be ranting on this hard. It's just, this is a major pay-per-view of effectively some sort of gimmicky way that they're going to be in a different area for like several months since the last Raw hasn't had a live audience since March 15th of 2020. And yet, all this BS has happened. Gosh. What else we had? Of course, we had Angel Garza versus Ivar one-on-one, and then it came off a distraction off one half of the Private Profits over relationships involving some chick. She looks beautiful, really beautiful woman to look at, and of course Charlie Caruso. That it's been daunting that Angel Garza have been flirting with her in most promos involving her and Andrade and Zelina Vega. The match was fine. We had cartwheels, drop kicks to the back of the head. Garza did win the match. So, yeah, the match ended with a shocking win for Garza, bro. It ended up with a videotape being launched involving, I thought, because Caruso was also involved, well, to interview him, even though he's already on Titantron, but I think the way was just to put him in a bad light. Then it ended up with a video feed showing of Zelina Vega sabotaging Montez Ford's drinking. Exposed! Surprise! They were obviously the ones who poisoned Montez Ford. Yay. Just for a surprise I saw about Montez Ford, now they want the smoke for just a Ford against Andrade match. That Ford won. Spoiler alert. What did you want me to say? What do you want me to say? It was an obvious back and forth and 50-50 at best of the final could be at the pay-per-view. Next we have Mickie James versus Natalya. Why? I understand this just surge momentum for big cleavage Natalya, and I'm not denouncing her as a wrestler. I respect Natalya to a T because she's a seasoned veteran. She deserves much more credit than she's given in the WWE, but you just have Mickie James return after months of injury, after merely a year at best, and yet you make her lose one-on-one in a return match. That's not a good look for Mickie being taken more tougher than an IG model and a woman in the mid-card purgatory forever. Like, there's no legitimacy that I'm going to ever take Natalya as a threat, ever. You make her lose, like, DDT counter, she finally hits and then she loses off countout. So that's showing less of a factor over Mickie James being presented a threat. She's probably going to win if she beats Lana or something next week, but I don't care. That's kind of disappointing, though. And they don't even compel this to anything else, because I thought they were something else. We also have more jobbers. We got like 3 women's matches in Peyton Royce against Ruby Riott, and it ended as expected. Next up, we had the Golden Role Models against Asuka and Shayna Baszler. The surprise was, of course, Nia Jax coming out. And they ended up fighting anyway, and they could have ended in DQ, but somehow the ref didn't count that, even though it was outside interference. Then it just came on a 2-on-1 for a couple minutes. Meteora kicks a rollout. Some cool arm bars until Shayna Baszler came back to bring the numbers game up. Some kind of face buster finish was reversed. Shayna then had a Coquina clutch on Bayley. Then the Asuka lock. No, I think it was the other way around. Other than that, Asuka and Shayna picked up the win. So the Queen of Spades wins it. I still don't know why they didn't just give her the women's title to begin with. I don't know why we're still giving it to Sasha and had to be off a count-out finish. If you ever do a count-out finish to win a title reign, that title reign has to be short. It's just a dumb finish. It's weak. And if you're making a decision like that, the heel should obviously win the match. Stephanie is so dumb for that. Next up, we had, of course, Ruby Riott against Peyton Royce. Peyton Royce have won off like Goldust's finisher. Sorry, I'm supposed to call him Dustin Rhodes now. Liv Morgan was in the outside giving support. We had trash talk coming from the Iconics, still burying the Riott Squad as they stand because they're still central jobbers, and Ruby Riott supposed to like early breakup after they just had this quick reunion of friendship, literally back at the KO show like 2 weeks ago. You let them pick up a tag team dub, and then they lose twice. Both Liv loses a match against, I think, Billie Kay. Peyton Royce pins Ruby Riott with just an accidental miscommunication off Ruby to Liv Morgan getting assaulted by behind. The match was so meh, and it just builds up nothing. Like, I don't know if there's supposed to be a come up. It's another quick breakup scene to show how totally different they are. I'm just not invested. And they don't have that much of momentum because they have that lackluster of a women's division. Like, it's like a handful of women division next to Bayley, because she's also a women's tag team champion. And Nia Jax sucks. And they try to legitimize Shayna Baszler again with putting her in Raw Underground because it's time. It's time for Raw Underground, the most cutting edge part of Raw. Or dumb fake shoot fighting on to bring some legitimacy for me to have an excuse to see Eric, Dolph Ziggler, and Riddick Moss still on television. Even though they do nothing for the programming, except they have good amateuristic backgrounds. That doesn't make them interesting people. That doesn't. We also had the Mysterios after a call-out after, of course, Mysterio still feeling the effect of his eye injury, and of course, barely standing Dominic Mysterio after getting hit with kendo sticks in a heartfelt promo, blah, blah, blah. Ended up with him calling out Rollins and Murphy and Rollins thought they have an advantage because they crippled them. Mysterio baited both of them to get from behind by Rey Mysterio and Dominic faking the injury. That's about it. That's about it. Of course, Mysterio was predictably going to be in the corner. I think I predicted that in my last Raw review. I knew they were going to do like a Mysterio in his corner to show how much Dominic grown can be treated as a man. You don't mess with La Familia. I'm expecting just Dominic to just get over the aspect of how much this feud has been going on now. And he's just formatted so weak because Rollins as discontempt is playing a god like some kind of false prophet gimmick as anybody else because he's not that interesting or prolific as a speaker. Like, if I can do Jake the Snake having a false prophet gimmick, I can understand that because he's that intelligent of a speaker and he can just catch your attention off his voice. I can't, and he's more compelling in the ring. Other than Rollins, that's being like, I'm a god and I'm still doing suicide dives off the outsides and curb stomps, and it's so amazing off the sacrifice of fake gouging out your fake Party City eye. It's just not that compelling. Next up, we have the Hurt Business against Mustafa Ali, Apollo Crews, and Ricochet. They excused Cedric because of the full Nelson, even though I don't think he was hit with a full Nelson later on the show. By the way, Shelton lost the 24/7 title earlier until winning it back with the pay dirt. The 6-man tag got predictable later on after Apollo got left alone after Shelton eliminated Ali, and then Ricochet won with a pay dirt. I think Lashley picked up the win until a spin-out powerbomb off Shelton Benjamin. The match got basically because MVP's never going to pick up the win because he's the leader and the talker, so he never wins or it gets taken threateningly until Lashley comes that doesn't have a match at SummerSlam that I think is completely stupid. Comes out off a shocker spear after nullifying spin-out powerbomb, some drop kicks, a standing moonsault off a 200-pounder. That's obviously never going to be the finish. So, ends off that note. So, the Hurt Business is in the corner of MVP. With Cedric Alexander, that came up after talking to MVP, obviously still trying to recite him a spot at the Hurt Business because we need a lot of black people. Just pointing that out. Of course, we have, it ends up with Cedric coming out and winning the 24/7 title off R-Truth, I think. Or I think Shelton. So, and then Cedric runs off with the jobber belt. When it used to be like at least 14 people, like I think EC3, Robert Roode, the Singh brothers that hot potatoed it a lot. Like a lot of people came for that one belt. It just came into like a handful, like 5 people, like Benjamin or Truth that still catches it, even though he should be going for a more important goal. the Akira Tozawa, and of course Cedric Alexander, because we are running out of jobbers. It's not like we're making stars with them anyway. And screw the Canadian border. Next up, we of course had Raw Underground that had Riddick Moss, Pummel, Cal Bloom, and of course Dolph Ziggler shut out Eric from the Viking Raiders from a sleeper hold. That looks so fake with their fake strikes, fake elbows, trying to feel like this is a more compelling mat wrestling when we don't even know what they're fighting for, other than an excuse to just put them in a different light. Because probably these guys have an MMA and fake amateuristic background that makes the matches feel more real. Even though when Benoit and Kurt Angle did it was more compelling and it was a different clash of styles, and that actually felt cool. Like I already know Dolph Ziggler comes around predictably slapping his leg and coming around wearing skinny jeans that is more compelling than his actual character with freaking Chuck Taylors. The, the and then it ended up with some chick doing some submission hold. Nia Jax came jumping. I think one of Shayna Baszler's posse. Shayna Baszler teased that during Raw Underground that her friends from NXT that I don't think anybody knows at this point, even an NXT fan doesn't, comes around picking up some wins until Nia Jax came and jumped her. Montez Ford against Andrade. Andrade lost to Montez Ford. Off outside interference. While that was happening, Bianca Belair came and assaulted Zelina Vega out of nowhere. Zelina Vega was the most interesting fashion. Like, I'm not saying it's terrible. It's not terrible at all. It's just every time. Different wardrobe. Looks great in every time. It's just, this discombobulated of a feud that obviously have the team that's facing them on the pay-per-view beating them. People have been teasing that it was going to be Angelo Dawkins poisoning and sabotaging the World Tag Team title reign. I don't care. They're at least better than the Private Party because Ford is the funnest guy to watch, and Apollo is the more compelling, more charismatic of the two. All because you sing and you extend your neck doesn't make you interesting, Ford. Just do those 17-foot frog splashes and making sure your neck feels like a black dick. Look like a black dick. That's literally it. No one really cares about this matchup. It obviously had a decent finish. Viking Raiders were just there to be there, and of course we had Shawn Michaels that even had some words to Drew McIntyre over the road he's been in, and Drew McIntyre's being like, even though I talked about this literally just a week ago, let me go over my journey from being fired to winning the WWE Championship. I think we get the gist, bro. Shawn Michaels just said, let the old man get his way. Obviously, he comes giving a warning over to Randy Orton that you're gonna see it come SummerSlam, and Drew McIntyre's gonna beat you. Obviously, an RKO, and then an immediate punt kick to the face. That instead of laying dead on the floor because it literally stunned a guy with a neck injury, and he did it to Christian. Shawn Michaels already came on nearly on his knees and was about to collapse until when McIntyre was literally just fighting him off. You think I should probably keep hitting him until he runs away out of the performance center, or at least knock him out. I still get RKO'd. Yay. By the way, Montez Ford returning was the main event, so I guess see people are happy. You're so lucky that these aren't live attendants are not coming by. I swear, you are so happy. This show was so bad. The show was bad, man. If you disagree, glad to read some of your excuses. Opinions on the comment section, because this is just a bad show, in my opinion. It's just. I just felt like they were doing lackluster build-up. They're doing the same formula that SmackDown did to even open the show. Like, opening match, they Retribution messes with some stuff, or they do the minimalist amount of impact to even make the show interesting, that the world champion, or at least a top babyface, talks to the guys on the roster. They talk to the heel. Stuff happens that changes with other storylines, and the faction is just a complete afterthought. Other than they mess, or they're doing introductions to uh Kevin Dunn, how to make regular Raw camera work happen 101. I don't I don't care. I don't. Nothing compels me about Retribution. Nothing compels me about the World Championship. Nothing about what's going to happen at SummerSlam feels like one match is going to be about main event worthy. Except probably the Strowman and the Fiend match, because Vince just is this desperate to feel like they have a monster gimmick that's actually going to be compelling, even though it lost its luster literally last October. It it's just not that interesting, man. I'm trying my best not to cuss, man. And a predictable feud, and of course Apollo Crews at least having more promos. I'm a bit interested in the Mysterio Dominic versus Rollins fight, because I literally seen this kid when he was like, he was probably like 6 or 7 years old the first time I saw him on SmackDown, and now the guy's like older than me. So that's gonna be a surprise to see him at SummerSlam, and like Ruby Riott and Liv Morgan are shockingly jobbers. I don't know why they still do this, and of course, uh, Asuka and Bayley still lose every week, even though they're the prodigal champions. But the only people they consistently beat is freaking Nikki Cross. So there's no complacency on showing that these heels are, really captivating. Yet they dominate and hold every belt in the roster, and you can see why this women's division is failing. But what can you say? It's my opinion because I'm a sexist bigot. But other than that, that's the show. Turkey Mania. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe.